Bad Santa 2 is a sequel to the first Bad Santa film from 2003. And if you see right now, Eddie's here on Skype because unfortunately me and him needed to do a review at his house because things came up. So this is just him now doing the review with me.
I live about 30 minutes away.
Yeah. So, now for those of you who are familiar, the first Bad Santa I really liked as growing up, or when I first watched it. It was one of those kind of comedies that I always just really enjoyed as a Christmas movie, but also it was just a really raunchy, funny movie. You know?
Yeah, it's actually in my top 5 favorite Christmas movies to go to every year. And I notice that it's actually a lot of people out there's favorite Christmas movie to go to, but it's also in my top 20 favorite comedies ever made.
Yeah, me too. Especially when you got Billy Bob Thornton, who, like in the first film, it was him and his friend, played by Tony Cox, Marcus, who who, if you remember, went to rob a mall, and he sees this fat kid that befriends him, and pretty much what I loved about the first one was not only did it mix a lot of blend of great raunchy comedy, but it was actually kind of heartwarming too in a lot of parts. You know, especially the scenes with him and the kid. But
oh, the first one's comedy was gold. It was one of mine. Like I said, it's in one of my favorites. I gave the first one a 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah, the first one is a 9.5 out of 10 for me if I would have rated it. But the sequel picks up 13 years later, where it has Willie, now still played by Billy Bob Thornton, where he's out of prison.
And this is also a sequel that was it took like 5 years to be made.
Yeah, it took a long time.
I remember it was on the coming soon like every year, but then it would go off around, say, October, September. The closer it got to November, you would see it disappear from the coming soon list, and then it would be put on next year's list. And that's what I was afraid of it happening this year, because I wouldn't even anticipate it until I saw the trailer, because if somebody would say, hey man, it's on the list, I'm like, it's been on the list like for 5 years straight, and it goes away. It'll probably go away again. But then I seen the trailer and I was shocked. Finally it was here.
Yeah, because I remember for a long time Billy Bob Thornton was trying to get the movie going for a while, and then script problems kept coming up and everything, so we didn't really get to see any development until until this year, because
I think it was the first year I heard about a possible sequel was in 2011.
Yeah.
And ever since then, they were talking about doing it since then, and every year it would disappear. I'm like, come on, I wish they'd make the movie.
Yeah, me too. So we have this one that picks up, 13 years later, and Willie is now having the kid live the film who's all grown up, and they even got the same kid from the first one to come back, Thurman.
Oh, that's what I loved about that. They brought the ones who were meant for the sequel, that the characters they brought back the original person. That was cool.
Yeah, especially, well, not to go into detail, but they even bring back the hooker from the first one as well.
Yeah. Oprah, I love her, man. You know what? She actually is kind of underrated. I wish I would have seen more of her, because her comedy with her and Willie talking about getting fucked in the ass and all that crap.
Yeah.
Their comedy, like, chemistry is funny as hell.
Yeah, it is. And so with this one, you have it to where Willie teams up again with Marcus, who's escaped out of prison, and you can tell from the start that he wants nothing he wants nowhere near him, because he tried to kill him in the last movie. And so he talks him into going in to see this associate that's in Chicago, and they team up with his mom, who's played by Kathy Bates, and they decide to knock off a charity organization and rob from them. And along the way, he goes there to Chicago, and him and Tony Cox, of course, they're bickering back and forth because, they had a feud in the last movie, so it's obvious, he's really kind of skeptical of working with him again. And
they have trust issues.
Yeah, and pretty much as the story goes along, they're having to team up with Kathy Bates, his character, who also has a problem with Willie as well, because, well, of course, Willie as well, he hates his mom too, because she gave him hell throughout the years. And
it's mentioned in the first one and this one that Willie grew up with pretty much a white trash family.
Yeah.
He was pretty much abusive, drunks, druggies. He had a hard life, so it was pretty much doable that Kathy Bates would come in looking like a biker.
Yeah. with all the tattoos and shit. Yeah, and
tattoos, and they give her that stereotypical like white trash look to her.
yeah, and so. But as the movie goes along, you start to see that they're trying to rob this charity organization, and shit goes down again, like we see in the first film. And I gotta tell you right now, I was really kind of going to this one with low expectations because I was hearing a lot about what this movie was getting from the reviews, and I'm very mixed. I like this one, but it's not really as good as the first one. So here's my pros.
We already knew that it was not going to be as good as the first one, but I will say that when I watched one of the trailers, it made me laugh, but then one trailer kind of gave me a low budgety feel to it, and I kind of got worried.
Yeah.
Because I guess the way they did their trailer, it just felt like it was like a low budget comedy. And I'm like, it looked like a really downgrade from the first one, which actually was high budgety looking. This one, just the trailers, but it got better when you watched it.
Right.
But the trailers kind of portrayed to be a cheap-made movie, and I was like, oh man, because some of the lines that they did in the trailer kind of seemed cheap.
Yeah.
It didn't seem so good, but after watching the movie, it's nowhere near it's nowhere near good as the first one. And that is a fact everybody can all agree on. But for a sequel, compared to what we get with comedies, it was actually doable sequel.
Yeah, it was. So here's my pros. Like I love seeing Billy Bob Thornton back in this one. I thought he was funny as hell, just like he was in the first one. This time he's spewing a lot more like racist jokes. He's doing he's doing less drinking this time than he was in the first one, but it's still the same character that we remember from the first one. The grumpy, hard smoking, the typical Billy Bob Thornton role that we know and love. And another thing,
I felt the same way. I'm glad I was happy to see him doing the same thing he did. I did like they brought the same kid back in Tony Cox. Him and Tony Cox, they all got this hatred. It kind of makes it feel like, okay, realistically wise, but it also, I love their chemistry again. They were able to hold that together. I did like how they also took they brought some classic lines from the first one. I think because those were iconic lines, and it was out of respect to do those lines again, like the sandwich part and then the "fuck me Santa" part.
Yeah, that was funny.
But I also like how they tested a new thing with Kathy Bates.
Yeah, because she in a lot of scenes in this one, she pretty much stole the show in a lot of parts. Her and Billy Bob kind of going back and forth, and how she was making fun when he was little and everything. We don't want to spoil too many of the jokes in the movie, but you can pretty much get the idea of like they all banter back and forth, and it really works. You really still get a lot of comedic gold out of them. And another thing I like too is that even though it kind of goes into a similar plot like the first one, I was glad that they took something different. Instead of knocking off a mall again, they're actually knocking off a charity organization. And
yeah, that's what I was kind of worried about when I seen the trailer. I seen him on the Santa thing again, and I thought like, oh god, they're gonna do another mall. So that's what got me worried. But I was actually glad they threw that in there, but it wasn't from a mall. It's a charity organization they're doing, which I like the little small change of. It was doable.
Yeah, and not just that, but you also get to see some other like small moments too that you really see a lot, like some throwbacks to the first one, like we said earlier, like the parts where you see them talking about the granny from the first one, and they also mentioned the wife from the first one and everything. So you get little callbacks from the first one. They don't do it too much though. This one, they still kind of keep it to where they're still trying to keep it as their own story, which I really liked. And another thing I really liked, yeah, and another thing I like too is that in a way, when it gets pretty much toward the end, it still feels like that charm like the first one again, because the kid comes back this time, and even though Willie is still, doesn't really like him like he did in the first one, you can still tell that he still cares about the kid.
Oh yeah, they actually do, which they kind of did in the first one, but they really upped the emotion in this one. And another thing, that was a big thing I did like, with the emotion, they kind of upped the game. And they kind of give you kind of like it's heading towards a full-blown closure, because really you don't need to do any more films.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that. And I'll get to some of my cons. There were some things I didn't really like. I thought some jokes didn't really work out too well.
Yeah.
When it gets to like the parts where you have him and Tony Cox like arguing back and forth towards the end. The jokes don't really hold up like I thought they would, but they're still. It's still. It was just a one and hit. It was just a one and done kind of scene, you know.
I will say that some of my cons here, I really didn't care much for the redhead.
I actually liked her character. I thought that she was kind of like the.
She's okay, but the jokes at the very beginning, when he was, he did some like underbreath. Some of it was funny, but some of it was over the top. I didn't care for. Even though I think this isn't something that bothers me too bad, but it is a con. But because this movie's so nostalgic, I can overlook it. They kind of calmed down on the Willie's drinking in this one.
Yeah, they do. I mean, you still see him in a lot of scenes drinking, but you don't see it to the point where he's really like hard drinking like he was in the first one, where he's a bastard.
Yeah, so that was a little con, but I guess you could change it up. And I was really disappointed that dude didn't do a lot of kids on the lap scene.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
It's in the movie, but it's really just a really fast scene. It's pretty much one and done.
Yeah, that was one of my cons too. They do bring some callbacks from the first one again, but I guess because they were trying to advance the story as its own, they didn't do it too much. But that was kind of my disappointment, because in the part where he has him on the lap, that did kind of disappoint me because I thought it was going to go on longer. But
yeah, believe it or not, that was what I wanted to see the most, because I could watch kids sit on Billy Bob's lap all fucking day.
Yeah.
Because the shit he comes with makes me laugh.
Yeah, it does. But for what it is, though, I mean, there's more we can go into, but we don't want to go too much of the humor that's in the movie. But it is a lot more. They do kind of mix in some juvenile humor that I didn't really think was a little too over the top in some scenes. But for the most part, I was still laughing throughout of it. And if you like the first one, I think that you might like this one, because it still has the same kind of humor you would expect in this kind of comedy. And yeah, there are like a lot of vulgarity parts that do go on too long. But it didn't get to the point where I was upset, So
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good scene.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, I was glad to see these characters come back again. I was glad to see them do a sequel. It wasn't needed, but I'm still glad to see that for every time we get a Bad Santa movie, it's always cool to see Billy Bob, talking shit to people and, having a good time. So with that, I'm going to give the movie a 7.5 out of 10.
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
All right, fair enough. What did you guys think of Bad Santa 2? Comment below, and if you like what you see here, you can check out more of our videos here on YouTube, and we'll be coming up with more reviews coming up here soon. We'll see you guys later.